This video was made in association with KnifeInformer.com. Head on over to Knife Informer for all of your blade-related needs, including reviews, comparisons, stats, and more. What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Collection Commentary. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at this SteelCraft Todd Begg Glimpse 7.0 made by We Knives. That's definitely a heck of a title for a knife, and it's for one heck of a knife and very fitting. Let's go ahead and jump right into the features and flaws. So the first thing that you'll notice on this knife is it is the version with the carbon fiber inlay inside the G10. Now this knife, all versions of this knife come with an inlay inside a G10 frame. And there are versions with carbon fiber inlays, and then there are versions with G10 inside G10 where it's dual color. Now, this particular knife is one of the first run of 100, and it was picked up from Blade Show 2017. I will get into that in a moment. But I did just want to let you guys know that that's where this came from. So I was very excited to be able to get the version with the carbon fiber inlay. I think that the carbon fiber on the black looks the best, but that's obviously just my personal opinion. It varies for everybody. But this knife has a lot going on, and it does it very well. So let's just go ahead and jump in. The first thing that I want to talk about is the best thing about this knife, which is the action. At this point, you guys know that I've owned quite a few of both regular Beggs and SteelCraft. I say quite a few. That's maybe exaggerating a little bit. But I have had a full-size Thai Bodega 2.0, a couple full-size field-grade Bodegas, 3 mini bodegas, SteelCraft mini bodegas at this point, and then also this Glimpse, and then I got to try some other Begg knives at Blade Show, and so I've definitely been around Begg knives before, and they all have great actions. This one has the best action, and that's kind of surprising to say. It's not particularly exciting to know that you would get a better action on a Chinese production version of a knife that costs $350 compared to the real knife, which if you were to buy like a full custom Glimpse 7.0, I don't want to say full custom, I've never touched one of Todd Begg's customs. Sorry, if you were to touch a full-size mid-tech Glimpse, that this would have a better action on it. And it's just, I mean, it's so unbelievably smooth. And it's smooth in a way that I'm not really used to. It kind of glides in a way that I'm not really familiar with on other knives. And I think part of it might have to do with the construction. So this knife, I'm actually going to be able to show you guys because I finally got a flashlight. Yeah. It's a titanium frame. Actually, it might be a steel frame. It's a metal frame, which I should know. It's got to be titanium, right? But so there is a frame inside the G10. You can see it outlined here. So you can see, oh, that's not a good angle. Anyway, you can see that I thought it was just a tab lock when I first got it, and it's not. It's not a tab lock. It is a full titanium frame with a G10 frame kind of shell around it. And so I don't know if it's just the way, if it's that because there's two different materials, any vibration or friction felt in the action, if it goes through the titanium and then as it's transferred through the G10, it's kind of diffused, and so therefore you don't feel it because you're not making direct contact with the material that the bearings are making direct contact with. That might have something to do with it. I might be completely talking out of my ass. I don't have any like degrees or anything to know about like the way energy is diffused through physical objects, but That's what it feels like to me. It feels like there's some sort of degree of separation that's causing this to feel smoother than perhaps it even actually is. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is your perception, and my perception is that this thing has the best action of any bag or SteelCraft bag knife that I have personally handled. I would say that the field grade carbon fiber bodega that I had that was on ceramics was pretty close. But this is better. And so this knife is on ceramic bearings. It is on ceramic IKBS, rather. Actually, it might be steel IKBS. It doesn't say ceramic, but I do know that it's got the ceramic ball on the clip, and all of the other SteelCraft knives run on ceramic, so I would have to imagine that this one is the same, and that the reason that they ditched the ceramic nomenclature is because they put the spinny logo on the flipper tab, and it just looked better without the word. So I'm hopeful that that's what it is. And then you can see that we do have S35 VN blade steel, and that this is from the first run of 100. That is the designation there. Now, if we move on to the overall ergonomics of the knife, it's comfortable. It's not quite as beautifully ergonomic as a bodega. It's got a little bit more of a curve to it. You do have your fingers kind of trying to wrap around this fat section here, which works well. It fills the hand, but it's not the most exceptional kind of feeling in your hand. The clip definitely is pretty big, and I feel it digging into my hand just a little bit. There's no jimping on the blade spine here, and it is rounded, so it's pretty slippery up here. You don't have a lot of place to push your thumb into, and because it's curved, you can see how easy it is for me to slip off by applying a little bit of pressure. So that's not the best thing either. I'm not super stoked about this knife from a practical standpoint, which it's the production version, so even though, you know, they can't really change the design of the knife because that would render the point of making it pretty moot, but it kind of bums me out that, like, people would probably buy this to be a user, and yet it's not the most effective in a saber grip. If you do kind of pull your thumb back a little bit, you can hang out here and get a little bit of purchase, but it's nothing great, and then you're kind of really far away from the blade, so that doesn't work super well either. However, if you choke up on the knife and get into this finger choil, which, by the way, this finger choil, because of the shape of the flipper tab, looks like it's not that thick or not that big, and I was pretty confident when I first held the knife that I wouldn't be able to get my finger in there comfortably, but frankly, it's actually the perfect size for my finger. Fits in there pretty well. It's got room to breathe, so if my finger was a little bit bigger, I don't think I'd have any trouble. And then they really brushed off this section here so that it's completely smooth. You're not going to cut yourself by slipping off the edge here, which that's something I really appreciate. I've mentioned that in a couple of other recent videos, that when a finger choil has this kind of area that's been sanded down, that's a big deal for me, because there are some finger choils that are really great, but they bring it right to a point, and then it's like any mistake at all is just an immediate slicing open of your finger, and that's not fair. Or that's not great anyway. Life's not fair, right? But it does have much better ergonomics when you're choked up. All three of your fingers do manage to get into this section pretty comfortably, so that feels good. The finger choil, you know, the flipper tab is wrapped around pretty well. The blade, or the cutting edge, is wrapped around pretty well. You're pretty secure holding the knife like this. I mean, you could really pierce this thing, or really dig into something pretty well without much slippage, although again, your thumb really doesn't have a place to go, and they really thin out the spine of the blade here. You can see the swedge is extremely aggressive, and therefore your thumb is kind of like almost cutting itself on the edge here. So again, not super great on the blade spine in terms of being able to bear down on the knife. If we do go back to the saber grip real quick, you will see that there is thick, fat, smooth jimping down here. It doesn't really do much. It's too kind of exaggerated and smoothed out. It's definitely more aesthetic than anything else. I don't really have too much else to say about this, guys. The thing about this knife that was really stand out to me was the fact that it has that incredible smooth action on it, and I will say that the clip functions perfectly well, right? It's 3D milled titanium, it's plenty of space, it's got great tension, it's got a ceramic ball in and out of your pocket with one hand, no effort. All of these ceramic ball clips like that these days are functioning extremely well. You do have a pretty large lanyard hole back here. I know I'm kind of just jumping into some random features, but I didn't have too much laid out for this knife. You know, you do have this kind of sheep's foot blade here. It's all belly. It's going to be a fairly good cutting edge. I do have the version with holes in it, so it would get caught up on something like cheese. I wouldn't be super stoked about that. But the blade stock is not too thick, so it is going to be a fairly decent slicer, especially if you go for the non-drilled hole flute inside the blade. So that's pretty much going to wrap up the features and flaws on this knife. Not great ergonomics, not great purchase for your thumb if you're bearing down. Decent slicer, and then overall a really cool looking knife and has a fantastic action. What I will jump into really quick is story time on this knife. I was super happy to be able to get this, and the person that I have to thank is my friend Sid. Follow him on Instagram here. Sid is awesome. He had the early bird ticket at Blade Show, which I did not because the travel didn't work out for me, and I didn't really want to pay extra for a ticket. And so I did not wait in line to be able to do the early bird, but Sid did. And what he did for me, they were selling a limit of 2 per person at the Todd Bag booth. And when the doors opened, everybody rushed for some of the Blade Show exclusives, or, you know, I'm sure certain people rushed for custom makers, but a lot of people went to the Microtech booth for the 2017, the cheap out the front knife. And then a lot of people went to the Todd Bag booth to pick up one of the first run of 100 glimpses. And I really, really wanted this knife, and I really only wanted it in this configuration. Epic Snuggle Bunny picked up 2 in this configuration. It was very popular. It was the first one to go, and Sid went straight to the booth for both of us, and he waited in line, and he purchased 2 of these knives, cash, one for me and one for himself. And I'm really, really thankful that he was able to get to the booth in time to get the most desirable configuration and be able to front me and pick up the knife for me. Of course, when I met him, I PayPal'd him for the knife and took hold of it, but I didn't get in until much later in the day. So thanks so much, Sid. You were a super important part of me being able to get this knife, and this is definitely a permanent part of my collection. Being the first run of 100, being made by my favorite Chinese production company, We Knives, being one of my favorite designs from one of my favorite American makers, Todd Bag. Overall, this thing is just a total winner as far as I'm concerned in terms of like collectability and what it means for me. But again, if you're looking for that kind of general EDC, I think this knife is way too big. I think it's got really not great ergonomics. I think it's got not the best cutting blade. I don't think I ever actually lined it up next to the PM2, so before I say my final goodbyes, I will show you how much bigger this knife is. It is absolutely gargantuan. So I don't recommend this one as the one and only EDC choice of somebody that's trying to move up in terms of the production knife market, but I would recommend it to any collector or anybody who wants to check out a really, really great production version of a timeless classic in terms of design. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Of course, if you would like to see pictures of any of these awesome knives, you can do so by following me on Instagram at tovarishworks. And if you would like to send me a lovely loaner, I would appreciate it very much so, and you can do so by emailing me at tovarishworks@gmail.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.